Hey, happy Sunday. This is PFG Live, and today is the 15th of September. My name is Spencer Webb. I'm in southern New Hampshire, and my job is to keep everybody unincarcerated. Welcome to the PFG Live. Let's see, who do we have today? Brian is here from Northeast Ohio, reporting sunny in Northeast Ohio. CJ Stevens, welcome aboard, sir. He says it's 84 and breezy in East Tennessee. Evils is checking in with a METAR that basically says it's 23 science. Tom Zelickman of that we know and love. He's checking in and he says it's, my gosh, you gave us all sorts of information. 246 feet. Thank you very much. Who else is here? Protein Machining is checking in at 93 degrees and 30% humidity in Tucson, Arizona. If you don't know this, by the way, Dylan lives in a filament dehumidifier. Tucker is here. He says it's 83 degrees Fahrenheit and sunny in Buffalo, New York. Dale from the Edmonton, Alberta says it's 15 degrees science and sunny in Canada. Snatchy Poo says it's 80 degrees Fahrenheit and sunny in Far Hills, New Jersey, but is it too far? Unix Carbide is reporting Gugi in Brooklyn, New York, 78 degrees Fahrenheit, 12% relative humidity in the filament chamber. And we do have a transgressor who did post before the top of the hour. Thank you, Evils, for bringing him back. DBX is here in New York somewhere and reporting White Plains weather as winds 140 at 09 knots, visibility 10 miles, few clouds at 5,000, temperature 24, dew point 14, altimeter 3008. Oh, gorgeous. Yeah, okay. Josh, our audio reporter, is reporting check. Thank you, sir. Test Room 2003 is with us. Welcome, sir. He says, good evening from Oostkapelle, Netherlands. 17 degrees science, 72% relative humidity. Welcome aboard. Well, we have a good crowd. So welcome to everybody who is in the Discord. And they are Mr. Tom Zelickman, Protein Machining, Unix Carbide, Snatchy Poo, Josh, Evils, Justin P, Scott M, Almost Machining, Daniel F, DBX, Tucker, Dale, and Nick MB, Robin, all rise, be seated, Carl Tauber, Bill Olney, and of course me. Josh says, in PFG flat southern Manitoba, it is winds are 250 at 7 knots, temperature 25, dew point 16, and the remarks are unimportant. Welcome aboard, everyone. We got a good crowd forming. There are finger sandwiches in the break room, so help yourself. We have a great show lined up, and we were talking in the ante room, and I had to tell everybody to stop talking about the good stuff because we have to save it for the show. So you're gonna enjoy this. It's been a busy week and lots of client work this week. I'm slowly getting unoverloaded, but not fast enough. Oh, thank you. Yeah, Evils. So we made a technical change on the podcast. So if you are the user of a podcast app, you might want to just go check it. The last podcast we posted was the live special from IMTS with Tuck. If you do not see that, then your podcast app has not updated yet. Do not panic. We changed the URL for the podcast. So if you go to pfg.gg/PFG.Live, all one word, that's the correct URL. And the podcast apps are catching up. Evils also points out that daylight savings is coming, and our show is locked to East Coast time. So when daylight savings comes, our show is going to shift, I believe, to 1900 UTC. from 1800 UTC. So keep an eye out for that. We are locked to Eastern Time and will remain at 1400 Eastern Time. Protein Machining says Spotify is not updated, at least on his end. So it's been a little weird, and believe me, I'm not going to ever make that change again. But there's a way to kick it and force it to do the right thing. One way to do it is to delete the podcast from your device, go have a coffee, come back and re-add it, and it might all work. Okay. But it did fix itself as far as I was measuring. It just took time. It was kind of a bummer. Welcome aboard AB Shop. He says, ciao, everyone. Alberto from Vicenza, near Venice, Italy. 19 degrees science and summer is gone. Sorry, buddy. It's only 1 degree below standard. It's not that bad. But yeah, today in Windham, New Hampshire, it's currently 79 degrees and 52% humidity, completely clear, gorgeous blue skies. I was sitting outside getting my vitamin D earlier. Manchester Airport reports winds are 250 at 3 knots, visibility 10 miles, few clouds at 5,000, temperature 27, 2.13, altimeter 3035. And the remarks are unimportant. So somebody had asked me a little while ago, why do we do all this weather stuff at the beginning of the PFG.Live? So there's a couple of reasons. One is that we're nerds, and I'm a pilot, and so reading METARs is something I learned how to do, 20, 30 years ago, whenever it was that I started. So we started making little web hooks and software in the Discord server to grab the METARs, and that led to making weather reports. But also the other thing is, as a ham radio operator, when you get on the air and you make a new contact, especially on voice, with somebody halfway across the state or halfway around the world, what's the first thing you talk about? You talk about the weather. So that just evolved into a completely nerdy representation of what we do. So we require, when you check in, thank you, Carl, when you check in, you tell us the weather. So we have something to talk about. Carl Talbert from the People's Republic of Rhode Island reports 76 degrees and a dew point of 56 down there in Rhode Island. And I don't have to report his town, because if you're standing in Rhode Island, you can touch all the towns from wherever you're standing. So it's no problem. Anyway, that's some of the updates. Let's see. Shop updates. PFG Stones flying out the door. Redmond, Washington. Redmond, Washington. They're on the way. Not much else I can discuss happening in the shop except for a little bit of grinding. Okay, so today's mission. Oh, I did hear from Shaylee, our intern from this past summer, and Shaylee might be on next weekend to talk about the results of the Einstar scanner. So keep that in mind. Shaylee could not join us last week, but next week looks good. I crashed the Bambu. So, as you probably know, I have 3 Bambus, and they're used for cranking out all the trays and lids and my balancing stands, the BAL, the BAL8, and I'm sorry, the BS8, the BAL200 is the balancing ring, and I've never crashed the Bambu, and I have 3 machines. They each have hundreds of hours on them. Never had a crash. But some wise guy decided to try a custom G-code insertion in the slicer for the purpose of wiping the nose of the nozzle more frequently than it normally does to get cleaner prints with PETG. This wise guy found a reference on the internet for how to do it, copied the G code, reviewed the G code. It looked reasonable, and tried it. And it was an unmitigated failure. That wasn't the problem. The problem is that the experimental machine profile was left in the library. And then when he's working on a project, Jared had something that he wanted printed. The same wise guy went downstairs and fired up the slicer and said, "Oh, here we go, slice this thing up for you, send it to the printer and walk away." Well, it was the experimental profile. And the nozzle of the Bambu, focus, thank you, hit things that it shouldn't have hit and bent the nozzle pretty soundly. So if you look at the thumbnail for this video, you'll note that I sneakily hung an 8x10 photo on the Tormach 1500 in the thumbnail of a good and a bad nozzle from the Bambu. Anyway, this guy is dead, and I'm not going to try to repair it. I'm going to have to wear it around my neck for the next 6 months. Daniel says, "Hello from 37,000 feet above the Labrador Sea. The weather looks cold. I'm not opening the door to check." Daniel, welcome, sir. 37,000 feet. Wow. How'd you get that far? Nice to hear from you. Thank you for checking in. You might get the award today for checking in from the weirdest place. That's awesome. It sounds like you're going home from your trip. So Daniel, correct me if I'm wrong, Daniel. Daniel was at IMTS. He met with Unix Carbide in New York City and had lunch. I mean, Daniel's getting around. So it sounds like you're on your way home. Josh says, put in the display case of example parts. And Proteum says, sounds like a good excuse to try out the nozzle upgrades. So what I did do is I did replace it. So when you buy the Bambu, I think you get one or maybe even two of these in the spares kit. I don't remember how many you get, but I guess you get one per machine of a spare. And it wasn't bad. It took me about 15 minutes. If you wanted to force me to do it as fast as I can, I could probably do it in 5 minutes. And I ordered other spare parts this week also. First of all, let's say hi to Jeff Dumas. Jeff is from Nashua, New Hampshire. We have tornadoes and timber wolves everywhere. You might have 10 minutes until it gets to your window. You know what? Bring it. Bring it. I'll take your tornadoes and your timber wolves. Welcome aboard, Jeff. Nice to see you. I wonder if we're members of the same makerspace. Anyway, I also ordered the, let's see, I'll get a picture for you of this horrible crash. It was joyous. Here's a good picture. The silicone covering of the nozzle also was damaged and left some debris in the machine. I was not proud of this moment, but it all cleaned up and we're back in business. So we survived our first X1C crash, and we keep on going. I've been very happy with those printers, and they have really been cranking out. One day I'll pull all the statisticals from the machines and report them to everybody because they're very encouraging. So Jeff says, I'm not in a makerspace at the moment. Definitely on the table though. Jeff, call me. We'll talk. You know which one I'm talking about. I'm talking about Make It Labs. So I'm a member of Make It Labs and a proud proponent. Let's see. I think we got everybody checked in. So that was a story on the Bambu. So the Bambu uses a square heater block of not too big a mass, but it's nice. And then the heating element is it is an alumina substrate with I don't know if they just use conductor on one surface of the alumina, but that's the whole heating element. It's very teeny, and it gets clipped on with a metal clip that also supports the thermocouple, which goes into a hole on the side of the heating block. So it really was a matter of removing the clip, removing the heater, removing the thermocouple, which are now covered with thermal grease, clean everything up, open up a new little package of thermal grease provided to you, a little drop or two of thermal grease on both things. You put it back together, slide the clip back over it, and you're back in business. I am continuing to use the damaged silicone sock that goes over the whole thing until my 6 replacements come in a week or so. Okay. So that brings you up to date on the X1C. I'll keep you guys posted. Yeah, Protium says it is a very slick replacement process. So you can actually have that's weird. You can actually have multiple extruders ready to go. And the change, if you were doing just that, the change out would be 3 little connectors and 2 screws. And you could swap out the extruders. So it's not too bad. I am a curmudgeon, so I'm just using 0.4 millimeter nozzles, and I'm totally happy with that. CJ Stevens says the local makerspace would not respond to my attempts to contact them. Oh, well. CJ, you are welcome at our makerspace. I'll sponsor you. Protium says, just bought one of the E3D upgraded nozzles hot ends. Will report once I get it installed. Thank you. My position on, by the way, I see we're having trouble with the chat in YouTube. So if you're trying to chat in YouTube, I apologize. My position on 3D printing is I want to be a user of the machine. I don't want to be the machine maker. So I tend to be not very experimental when it comes to the machines. And that's kind of my position. Okay. The big news on our agenda today is a guest. Our guest, as you are no doubt aware, is Mr. Tom Zelickman of Tormach. And Tom and I go back a ways, and we're going to figure out how far back and what we've been talking about. So, Tom, you could turn on your mic and welcome aboard Mr. Tom Zelickman. How are you?
Good, sir. How are you doing? Thank you for having me.
It's good to take advantage of you, sir. Welcome back from IMTS. So I guess the most important question is, have you caught up on your sleep?
I slept for a solid 16 hours from Friday afternoon sometime until yesterday at some point. It's all a blur.
Yeah.
But I did manage to avoid the crud. I just had lack of sleep. So I'll take that.
Yeah,
I'll take that.
Absolutely. I guess we're not immune, so to speak. We're not immune from, in the science fiction convention world, they call it con crud. It's a known disease, and I'm glad you avoided it completely. When did IMTS start for you?
I got there last Sunday. So I know for larger booths, they might have been, a week or 2 weeks in advance starting their setup. But we got there on Sunday, so day before, and got everything ready to go.
Outstanding. So give us your biography, a little bit of background. Who are you? You've been on the PFG.Live before. It's been quite a while. So just give us the thumbnail and bring us up to you joining Tormach.
Okay. I'll go for the short version of this because I do have a habit of going too long. So yeah, I actually just started at Tormach at the beginning of the year. Prior to that, I had much the same background that other folks have had. like to tinker, all that fun stuff. Got tired of the projects themselves and wanted machines, and I actually bought some Tormachs for myself about 8 or 9 years ago. Hobby became self-funded hobby. Self-funded hobby started to make money. Eventually, Inspiration Metalworks was born. I did that for many years. And I had the opportunity. It was about this time last year, I started talking to folks from Tormach about a position that they wanted to open up. It took several months to get to that point, but they offered me the role of product manager at the company, which is new for them. And I took it. So, yeah, dove right in. And my very first assignment was, hey, we've got this mill we've been working on for a while, and we want to get it released. And that happened to be the 1500. If you've seen anything Tormach related recently, you know that that's our new mill that we released back in April.
So we have, it's the picture in the thumbnail with one of your colleagues preparing to mill his kidney. And that's the 1500 MX.
It is. And in fact, what he's doing is swapping a spindle on the show floor.
Wow.
And this is what Dylan was getting to earlier about, is it too soon to talk about, the adventure? Because IMTS for Tormach this year was an adventure. I don't know how many people realize it, but there's some discussion about whether Tormach has ever had their own booth at IMTS in the past. Definitely shared a booth with like AB Tools in the past, but it's been a while. And but this is the first time that we could find record of us having our own booth. And so overall, it went really well. We got to talk about things like how easy it is to swap spindles and right to repair, and the cleaning crew deciding to throw away the Z-axis cover panels because they thought it was scrap metal. Fun stuff. But overall, it was an excellent week. We got to meet with quite a few people. AJ had so Audacity Micro. He had his meetup on Monday. We had a user group meetup Monday. And we made, I was kind of cheeky on this one. Rather than making bottle openers or little tchotchkes or whatever, we actually made production parts. That was what our demo was. We made parts that are going to go into our fourth axis accessories. So we made the servo motor mounts for our fourth axis on the show floor at IMTS. So they even have special engraving on it. And, so if you ever get cheeky or you have to go replace the belt on that thing, you'll know if you got one of the IMTS ones. It's very, very prominent.
So you live in North Carolina.
Correct. Yes.
And Tormach Central, the world headquarters, is in where?
Madison, Wisconsin. Yes.
So you are much of the time a remote worker.
That's correct. Actually, when COVID hit, the company decided to take on a remote first approach. And we found that it just worked really well for us. So while, yes, there are people who still work at the headquarters office, and quite a bit happens there, we're not required to be there for every role. Now, obviously, if you work in the supply chain and you have to be in the warehouse, you can't do that remotely, right? Mm-hmm. But for somebody like me, I go back and forth. It was supposed to be once a quarter. I have found that I'm going once every month to 2 months. I go for about a week or so at a time and get some hands-on with people, really, work on the machines and keep things moving that way. And it's worked out really well. Our engineering staff is spread across Canada, the U.S., and Mexico, and it's been good. Yeah,
that's pretty awesome. Now, when you were running Inspiration Metalworks and you had two machines in there that were, I don't remember what they were, but they were black in color and they were non-Tormachs. We'll just leave it at that. Now you sold your shop, you started working for Tormach, you filled your shop with motorcycles. Yes. Or at least motorcycle.
there's more.
Oh, there's more. Okay, good. No, I didn't want to make assumptions. So you think you're going to get back to having your own machines? What do you think?
Absolutely. One of the key parts of my job is that I am effectively the end user's representative. So, product management in general it's kind of a newer thing. I don't think people realize that, but it used to be additional duties that people would take on in the past, and it's become its own role now. But to do that, I'm either going to have to go back and forth to Madison all the time, or I need some stuff. And so, thankfully, I've got room for stuff, and I've got the power to support it because this is the space that my shop was in. I was waiting for IMTS to finish so I could start getting some things sent over. But the plan is there'll be a 1500 MX behind the motorcycle. There's probably going to be some lathe equipment coming in. I've got a little excess tech, the little benchtop thing sitting over here on the side. We've got routers, we have plasma cutters, we have all kinds of things. But mostly what I'm going to try and do is get that real world hands-on work with them and start pointing out areas that we can improve, but also do things like I get asked all the time, hey, what's a good speed or what's a good setting for 3 or 4 stainless on this machine? Like, what can it really cut? Mm-hmm. Well, I can tell you it's 100. On my last testing, I was cutting 304 with a generic 4-flute and 3/8 end mill at 3/4 of an inch depth of cut, 10% engagement, and I was cutting 160, 170 inches a minute. And it had plenty more to give. Right? But you've got to do those kinds of tests, and that's what I'm going to do. Start making those tests, record that stuff, put it out. It'll probably, more likely than not, that kind of thing is going to go on the Tormach channel.
Yep.
Not my personal channel. I did take the Inspiration Metalworks name down at least. It's still, all those videos are still up there. So you can find that it was a Herco. I had a Herco mill and a Wachion lathe, and I had a used brother TCS2A for a while. Mm-hmm. Had all of those machines. So at one point I had the 2 Tormachs, the brother, and both of those other machines all in this building and making chips.
I remember that.
It was a little cramped. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so,
and a plasma can. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. Well, wasn't that where your Taekwondo floor is right now?
So actually, I've got another space. So I've got about this much space on the other side of the wall. It used to be the dirty side and the clean side is kind of how I kept things. And then it became, during the COVID times, right, it became family room / training space / anything but mine. The family took it over. And I'm slowly trying to, get my claim back over there.
Claw your way back into that room. Yeah, that's our biggest commodity is space, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So the 1500 is in the picture. That was the big deal for you guys to show off at IMTS. What's the story on that mill? I know that, Tormach had a mill. John Saunders did he have one? Did he have one of the mills? I'm not sure if he did, but I've seen a couple of them. A couple of the guys had them, and now out here comes the 1500 MX. What's new about it? What are the new features that were never before offered by Tormach?
So about the only thing that isn't new on that machine is the control, and even that, which runs PathPilot, has a version that we haven't released to everything else yet. So right now you can say it's a unicorn. It is. If I go down the standard checklist, so the first thing about it is rather than using cast iron for the frame, it is epoxy granite. So mineral cast granite. And it's made by a company called Base Tech in Ohio. And they ship those frames down to us our facility in Guadalajara, Mexico, where we put everything together. And so that one in particular is also a made in North America product. We can't say made in the USA. Not enough stuff is made in the US.
Yep.
But the frame is. And that thing by itself is a pretty big change because it's super rigid and has incredible vibration dampening.
Mm-hmm.
On top of that, it became a platform for us to build. So rather than hand-scraped dovetails, it's now linear rails. We went with servo, all the things, EtherCAT servos now. So at one point we were using the ones from Technic, but now it's all EtherCAT servos. So 1,200 inch per minute rapids, which is 4 times the speed of what the previous generations could do. It's also the speed it can cut at. We don't have like you can cut at this and rapid at that. I mean, you can program it. You can give it a G1 and go at 1,200 inches a minute. I don't recommend that, but you could.
You can do it once.
Well, it depends on what you're cutting, I suppose. So that makes a huge difference in there. So a lot more rigid, a lot more power. So we have in this one, it is all still single phase. That's one of the key tenets for Tormach. It's all single phase.
That's cool.
So you can just plug this in your garage. But we put a dyno on the spindle. So when we're doing our testing, it's not theoretical stuff. It's not what the number plate says on the motor. We actually do it for real through the whole drivetrain to the end. And so we do it through a spindle, and it's a 4 horsepower motor continuous, but we can peak up to 6 horsepower. So it's a very solid setup. I was able to take code that I used to run on my brother and just put it on this machine, and it just runs.
What's the RPM range?
So it is a 10,000 RPM spindle. It's not a high torque motor. It's a high speed motor. So it takes advantage of modern tool paths, all of the adaptive tool paths, things like that.
Yep.
Very, very effective. In fact, I was at IMTS. We were roughing, depending on how deep we were going, anywhere from 250 to 350 inches a minute in 6061, and 250 was at an inch deep. So it's moving. So it's been a pretty amazing setup. The ATC is a 16 tool ATC, so much bigger than our previous models. Every spindle, it is still BT30, but these spindles are prepped for through spindle coolant. So they're all ready for it. You just have to get the accessory. If you want through spindle coolant, it's a 30 bar, so 435 PSI, and just ready to go. Let's see, what else about it is new?
So we have we have a couple of questions coming in. Tuck wants to know what kind of service do you need to feed it AC power?
So all this is on our website. We've got both a space planning and electrical planning, but it's a 30 amp circuit. Okay,
cool. 30 amps at 220.
I would recommend 240. We did the testing.
Well, not 115.
Exactly.
Okay.
Okay. I do want to clarify, though. I just saw the one thing that popped up as far as the price goes.
Okay.
Right. Tormach has always been known for making affordable and capable and easy to run machines, right? One of the ways we do that is we don't charge you for things you don't need, and we let you mix and match, right? So that 32K figure is the base machine, right? That is basically the machine with an enclosure, right? From there, you can add things like, because it's hard to believe, but for a machine this size, there are still people who want one without an ATC. So
what?
I know. And we've sold at least one without an ATC so far. Just about everybody's doing the basics, right? So a machine with the ATC and flood coolant. But we've had a couple that decided to go with MQL instead of flood coolant.
Can you add the ATC later?
Yeah, and that's the beauty of this is you can buy the base machine for whatever machine we have, right? You can buy the base machine, get it making money, and as you can afford it, you can just add the things on that you want, right? So you don't have to have it exactly the same where it is. You add it on. I know I did that with my Tormachs. For the mill, I got just a basic machine because I hadn't even released some of the accessories yet. And then over time, I put all those accessories on.
I didn't know that. That's pretty cool. Are there Snatchy Poo says, or Mr. Poo, as we call him, are there plans to epoxy granidify the frames of the 1100s and the 700s?
Tap dance time. No, in all honesty, I don't know yet. Right. So This is a very new thing for us. This one, Durest often says the first one you do, you go to school on. Right. So this represents a new thing for us. Right. We were learning how to make all these things fully ourselves. We did all the engineering efforts. We didn't outsource any of that stuff. We're doing it in North America this time instead of having some stuff overseas. My personal opinion is I want everything to be like this, but realistically, we have to figure out. There's got to be a price point and a balance to performance-wise and things like that. So there's things we're looking into, but I don't have any, no promises, no timelines, things of that nature.
So a couple of our guys were at IMTS, as you know, including but not limited to Tuck and Dylan of Protein Machining. There's probably a few other people. You'll correct me if I don't get you, but Dylan is asking, what was the price as installed at IMTS? So the machine you were demoing at IMTS.
Yeah. So let's see. Somebody can go online to our website and start clicking buttons, and they can check me on this. So I would start with the fully assembled machine and then start adding in features. So we had... The fully assembled machine is the one with the ATC and flood coolant already there. So about $42,000, $5,000 for the wireless probe and tool setter. And then we have the big accessories that were added in. So it's about $7,000 for the for the 3-spindle coolant kit. And we had a mist collector on it as well, which is just shy of $2,000 if I remember right. So somebody's doing math on that. I think that comes in around $60,000. But like I said, it's all on the website, right? So you can literally just click through and put together a quote, and it's there. It's all we don't charge extra for anything other than obviously they're accessories. But there's no add-ons for we were doing high-speed machining or things like that. That's just included.
I think, and you guys could correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Haas sort of was one of the first companies that said, "Here's the menu. Tell us what you want. The price. Yeah. Push buy, and it shows up." Are you guys basically going down that model? Like, here's the menu. Pick what you want. Here's the price. Have a nice day.
We have always been that model. In fact, what the big difference is between Haas and us is we don't have a sales team. So if you do need help, we do have some pre-sales consultants. They're not quite applications engineer level folks, but they will definitely make sure that what you're trying to do and what the machine capabilities are match up, right? But yeah, we don't have a sales team at all. It's all, we expect you to go to the website and click on the buttons.
As you have said, as you have forthrightly pointed out. Let's see. Scott asks, he says, I didn't get a chance to ask anyone at IMTS, any plans for expansions in the lathe category? I'd love to see a big brother to the 15L.
So would I. I owned a 15L, and this is one of the things that we're really working on right now. And I'm not saying a lathe replacement, but rather people tend to outgrow Tormachs pretty quickly, right? And so what we're trying to do, the 1500 is a good representation of this, is we're trying to make it to where we're growing with you, right? We're trying to give more options and keep you in the ecosystem. Now, frankly, people are still going to outgrow them and go to bigger, badder machines. You're not going to get to, a Proteum machine size, realistically, unless you've got some, much bigger machines than what Tormach is currently making. But the idea is that we're really looking at that and trying to figure out a way to both grow the line without losing touch with who we are. And, we make machines for people who make stuff. And so that goes all the way down to tiny little, benchtop machines too. And we don't want to lose that and lose that community and that sense of culture. So, I don't know how big we'll go, but, we are looking at options at this point.
Mr. Robin Renzetti, who's in the chat, says, love my 15L. And
okay, well, we have to be clear on that too, that Robin's 15L is special.
It is special because Robin has Renzettified it. Now, I have another buddy who is in Western Massachusetts, and he has a Tormach lathe, and he also loves it, and he's cranking out production on it. He's done some fun things. He's put thermal control on the spindle. He's got heaters and temperature sensors, but he's making money on that lathe. So there's no question that you can't blame the tool.
That of all the machines I wish I still had, that's the one that I wish I still had.
There
it was
you
my
go.
15L. It was a great machine. Yeah.
Robin says, my 15L is ClearPath servos. I'm telling you, Robin, it's like, what's the old story about, grandfather's axe? We changed the head, we changed the handle. Is it still grandfather's axe?
Yeah.
Scott M says, I'd be up for a 15L Renzetti model, a designer edition. Robin, what color would that be? You have to pick what color that would be for the Renzetti model. So that's pretty cool. There we go. Ship of Theseus. That was the conundrum that I was trying to remember. They were excellent, Robin.
Yeah,
you earned them.
So Robin's machine was a prototype. We were looking at the possibility of swapping things, being able to offer an upgrade kit at one point, and we decided that it was not a good path forward. So yeah, like I said, his is special.
It's a pain when you have to actually make money in a business, right?
I mean, that's it. I mean, if I could make everything like the 1500 MX, I absolutely would. It's like, oh, make it bigger, better, faster, cheaper. But we can't actually do all those things, and that's the hard part, right? We have to keep the lights on.
If Tormach makes money and is successful and is responsible for launching how many businesses? I mean, how many people say, "Oh yeah, my first machine was a Tormach"? I think that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Art that makes art. That's Wes says, I'll have to make do with my rapid turn.
Ooh. Okay. That's actually, I've never run one of those, to be honest. They're a neat little setup. For those who don't know what they are, it's effectively an add-on to the mill that makes it a lathe, right? It's a spindle that you put on the bed, and you've got tooling that you can put on the Z-axis, and you can run it like a lathe.
I didn't know about it.
Kind of a neat little, yeah, it's a really neat add-on for the machines. Me personally, if I could afford even an 8L, I would go that route, our smaller lathe. It's just a little more robust. But if you don't have the space, it's kind of neat, right? And that goes back to why Tormach does what we do. Is there's a bunch of people, even at IMTS this last week, it was amazing how many people talked to me about how they disassembled their machine so they could get it into their basement, right? And you're just not going to do that with some of these other machines that are out there, right? So we do not want to leave that crew behind, right? As much as I want to do all sorts of things, and I kind of like the size of the 1500, right? It's like, okay, well, where do we go from here, kind of thing? And so Yeah.
By
That's
the way,
fun part of my job.
I am just remembering that our makerspace does have a Tormach mill, and it might also have a Tormach lathe. I know I should know, right? But I don't use them, so I don't remember. But
well, maybe that means I can come for a field trip.
Now we have an excuse.
Customer visit. We've been trying for like 7 years now.
I know. Now we have an excuse. That's awesome. So what was? Let's see. Brian says, I got my 1100 in 2014 and upgraded it to Series 3. Best buy ever. That's nice. Nice feedback.
It's awesome.
Yeah,
it really is.
Was this your first time at IMTS?
Mine?
Yeah.
No, I haven't been since 2018 though, so it's been a while.
What was your impression of? Let's start with just the show itself. What was your impression of the show? If you remember it, because
well, no, it was. I'm just trying to figure out the right words for it. So it's a sensory overload, right? I mean, it's huge, right? I really like that. There were a few things that I keyed in on. One is that it's AI of all the things. Everybody was trying to come up with AI, toilet paper dispensers, whatever. But AI, all the things. But realistically, one of the key things that I saw was automation was becoming more the mainstream, right? So machine tending, lots of different ways of doing it. Even we were doing it, right? So it wasn't just that we were displaying a 1500. We were displaying that with our ZA6 industrial robot doing a machine tending demo. So I really like to see how mature that market is getting at this point. It was a lot of fun to just catch up with people and see folks that I hadn't seen in a long time. I tend to ask more questions than I talk when I'm at places like that, because I'm always trying to learn something. It's like, hey, how's it going? What's your latest project? What are you getting stuck on? I can't take that product manager hat off. Right? I'm always trying to figure out what kind of problems I can solve for people. But I heard that attendance had dipped last time and was back up a bit this time. My comparison from 2018 was it was about the same. There were a few folks that weren't there that I think were there in 2018 that are doing their own things now. Like I want to say maybe it was DMG. DMG does their own separate thing now. But it was really good. I didn't get a whole lot of time to explore. I did see a few places. Me in particular, I was doing some research both on that automation stuff, and I was looking at different kind of probes. I've had people ask if they could put a Renishaw probe on ours, or Bloom or Hexagon or something like that. So I went and visited. It's a great way to just talk to people and find out, hey, what's it like? I talked to the guys at UR about their OEM programs and things like that, and what it looks like. So it was a really good trip. Like I said, it was an adventure for Tormach as a whole, but it was a good trip. Yeah, I liked it.
Scott,
when are you going?
Scott, when am I going? Well, I threatened to come this year, but I couldn't pull it off. I got just too
empty
busy.
Words.
I'm sorry. I got 2 years to get my act together. Scott M says the theme changes every time. 24 was AI. 22 was machine tending and Industry 4.0. 18 was additive manufacturing. And Scott says, I'm not convinced there aren't secret meetings. There are no secret meetings. What are you talking about? Proteum says, heard it was up about 30,000 from 2022, and over 90,000 had visited on by Tuesday.
Wow, yeah.
And Scott says, again, DMG Mori pulled out. They did the math and found out it would be cheaper to send potential customers all the way overseas into Europe, house them, give them a factory tour, and send them back for less than what IMTS 2018 cost them. That's quite the decision.
Yeah.
Tucker says the next show will be robots going to look at their replacements for machine shops. The show for robots. So I have an echo. Probably somebody left their mic open. Is it gone? It sounds like it's gone.
I did mine on and off real quick.
Yeah, yours. It's coming from you.
So
you could just mute when not talking, and we'll just manage it. We're doing it live, folks. This is what happens when you do it live. Eunice Carbide says it's not the worst echo he's ever seen. All right, good. Moving on. So, how much effort is it to pack up? I mean, we see some machines that go to these shows, and it's like you're setting up an entire machine shop, and you have, 30 hours to do it. How much effort is it to haul a machine like that to the show and then haul it back to home base?
I think most of the effort goes into just making sure it's going to work after the move itself, right? The move itself, at least for us, isn't terrible. We've got a machine that sits on 3 points, doesn't necessarily need to be super level. The same with the robot; they just need to be, aligned to each other. So it's not too bad. I mean, officially, I tried to draw the line at Tuesday before to get everything boxed up, and then reality is it shipped out of our facility on Friday, landed Saturday. We installed on Sunday, and we're cutting parts that night.
Wow.
But that's us. We're, a fairly small setup compared to some of these other booths that had, they could have fit, 20 of our booths inside of their space, and they've got 15 machines, and, it takes a week or two for them to get set up. The amazing thing to me is how fast the union people work there, even though it's a challenge sometimes because you can only work through the union teams. But then on Sunday when I got there, it looked like a battlefield. There was stuff strewn everywhere. And by Monday morning, there's this beautiful carpet down everywhere, and it's clean and put away. And it's like, how did that happen in like 8 hours? So, yeah, because if you think about it, all the walkways, everything like that, there's forklifts running through all that stuff until machines are in place. So it's kind of crazy to see. And then same thing, they pack it all up just as fast. So there's a lot of churn for some of these bigger ones.
Well, I guess
for us it was more making sure.
Go ahead.
No, I was say for us it was more about making sure we had the process down of, all right, this goes on, make sure, because that mist collector is kind of heavy. It's like, make sure we get that on the machine before the forklift driver is gone. Yeah, so that kind of thing had to be in place. And okay, once the robot's in place and the machine's on, we have to retrain the frames because we just have to make sure that the robot is aligned properly in the same way that we left it. So there's all of that. There was weeks of planning that went into this, so that when we actually did it, and it's kind of like when I was in the Army, right? We train. When you execute, you're right on and ready to go. You don't have to think about it. Same kind of thing for this.
You bring up a very interesting point because that's a skill. And are there were any of the other guys you worked with ex-military guys?
There's a couple, but not a lot.
Okay.
I think in general, the machinists that I know tend to like to do things a certain way all the time anyways. So it just blends together very well.
Nice. Proteum says, crazy to see the difference from Sunday afternoon to Monday morning. A legitimate magic trick. That's pretty cool. If you could change anything about your mission at this past IMTS, what would it be?
Ooh, I would have liked. Well, me personally, or the Tormach booth.
Do it in opposite order. Start with Tormach booth.
I wish we had unlimited funding so that we could have gotten one of those big booths and brought one of everything. Because, well, to be honest, a lot of people asked about different things. I mean, we have an auto feed saw. I got asked about that every single day of the show. Originally, I wanted the auto saw there cutting the blanks that we were going to use at the show, but we just didn't have space, right? So, yeah, it would be nice to have the deep pockets that some of these other vendors have. We just don't have that. I was excited just to be there and be displaying what we have. Me personally, I only scheduled myself for half the week and tried to get back a little bit earlier so I could get some other stuff done. And I could have used the entire week. I didn't get enough time to really go around and see what else there was to see. When you're running a booth, you're pulled in different directions. And even if I did have that extra time, I'm not certain I would have used it. Yeah. So I guess I did the best I could with what I had. But yeah, it's just never enough. And especially because it's 2 years before we do this again. And some of these people I only see once every 2 years. So it would have been nice to get out a little more, but it was absolutely exhausting.
Well, you could use this video for training those people for 2 years from now. There you go. Unix Carbide says it's also a fantastic learning experience for the super critical how do customers deploy this stuff. So the ability to set up the machines teaches you guys what the customers are going through, right?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, we found, I want to say 3 different areas that needed to be refined in our user guides. So the install guide, we're like, hey, there's a better way to do this than what we originally documented. So yeah, it really is.
So if any of you guys in the Discord have questions, you could hit the raise your hand button and we'll do an audio question, or you could put the question into chat. If you're watching on YouTube, you could use the YouTube chat function and put your question into YouTube text chat. Sounds like a great experience. Did you get a chance to walk, do the whole show? The whole show. You probably couldn't have done the whole show, but did you get a chance to go look at some things for your own personal benefit?
I did. I got a chance to see. Well, at one point, I got into every single hall. I did. It's an amazing amount. I was even not being out walking around like everybody else. I was still averaging about 5 miles of walking a day.
That's great.
Yeah, and that's just in the building. Yeah. So, yeah, it's a lot. I didn't get to see enough. I really, I got over to the DN Solutions booth to check out their, they've got a couple of new machines that a friend of mine wanted to see, and he couldn't come. So I went over there and took some pictures and a little video of that. I swung into the Kern booth, had to see Johnny Five.
That's right.
Yeah. I hung out with the Toolpath guys for a little bit. Won my round of cornhole, but then couldn't continue. Yeah, I made it to the semifinals, and then I had to step back. And so I don't know. I was partnered up with Tim Paul, and so yeah, I had a lot of fun with that. Yeah, it was good. It wasn't. Like I said, I really wish I had more time. But I also wish I had, it's like you can't be doing both, right? If you're running a booth, then you just don't get the amount of time to just be an attendee. So, yeah.
Tucker says, do you have a specific goal? Did you have a specific goal going into IMS besides showcasing the new mill?
I mean, aside from meeting him? Not really. No.
Okay. You met Iron Man. I mean, what after you meet Iron Man, what else is there, right?
It's all downhill from there, right?
It's all downhill.
And But no, it was for me. It was about mostly it was about networking and talking to different people and reconnecting with some folks. So yeah.
Dale says he's actually Plastic Man. Listen, don't split hairs with us here.
Yeah.
Let's see. Brian says, since I have the older 1100, what options do I have if the original PC dies for replacement from Tormach? You probably understand the question better than I do.
I do, yeah. So PathPilot, the PathPilot control is, especially for that series, was just kind of an off-the-shelf PC-based control with a Mesa card in it. We still sell things. We still sell replacements. We believe it or not, we have not put that on end of life yet. So you could come to us and we'll source the things that you need and sell it to you. But realistically, it's a PC, right? I mean, a very basic PC. You put the Mesa card in it. You get the PathPilot install USB. It's the whole operating system. The only thing you have to watch for on something like that is it's Linux, and you just have to make sure that it's going to be compatible with the drivers that are on that system. But you know, that's you can do that. For our newer machines and for the consoles and things like that, we've gone with a little bit more of a industrial computer. But at least for those original ones, and that's what I had on my Tormachs as well, was that same PC, which is why I know it so well. But yeah, I mean, it's just a basic computer at that point.
What's a Mesa card? I don't think I know.
It's the controller, so it was like a parallel controller that we used for the steppers.
Okay, so it talked to the stepper motors.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we did it. I'm thank you, CJ. Motion control. Thank you, sir. Yeah, I haven't built my own machine. I haven't even, what do I know? Well, Tom, thanks for being here. I appreciate you very much.
Thanks for having me.
And I'm looking for, Brian says PathPilot is great. I've heard a lot of nice things about PathPilot, actually. So pass that along.
Thank you.
CJ Stevens says he's learning Linux, CNC, and Mesa. Excellent.
Okay.
Well, thanks for being here. I think we'll put a bow on it. Are you going to come back? Will you come back again?
Oh, absolutely. You know that.
Well, excellent. I appreciate that very much. Let's see. Seeing no objections, I think we're just going to put the ribbons on it. Tom Zelickman of Tormach, thank you for being here, and hopefully we'll see you in the after-party roundtable after the show. Everybody, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you guys next week for the next PFG Live, and remember to get flat and stay flat. We'll see you later. Thanks, Tom.